Thank you very much, everybody. And it looks like a great crowd. Tonight, we're going to go right into the presentation. And we have with us Suresh, Bangalore. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. VU2COT. Suresh was at 911 and experienced the emergency communications confusion after that event. And so he's going to talk to us about it. And I just found out that Suresh and I worked together over at Walmart, and I worked over there for a while. So we actually seen each other before. That's amazing. Thank you, Suresh. And do you have a mic?
Yes.
Okay. So without further ado, Mr. Suresh Bangalore. Let me say it right.
First name should be okay.
Okay.
Suresh, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Suresh Bangalore. My call sign is VU2COT, Victor Uniform 2, Charlie Oscar Tango. It's actually Indian ham radio call sign. And I also have, I'm recently working on getting the US call sign, because now I'm a US citizen too. So before that, also I was in UK for some time, so I have my MM3 SSI UK call sign I have, which right now I use VU2COT with the prefix, and I'm getting away with it. Okay, so I'm very glad that somebody wants to hear the old story of 18 years old story. In fact, I have shared this story with very few people whom I know on an individual basis, but not for a big crowd like it was here. And thank you for that. So whatever some of the badges I had, even this logo which I had here, so which was I collected during the operation there. So I have kept it as a memento for myself. Like people who come from the war, you know, they keep their pins and other things. This is one of the things they gave. And so I was trying to dig those things, because after 18 years, somebody is showing interest to listen to the story. So I thought, let me dig out. Whatever is there, I just put it on a slide. So I want this to be more interactive. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask. So this is one of the, I took the screenshot from the ARIS Amateur Radio Emergency Communication Center. That if you go Google it with my user ID, or I had a boss there whom I was reporting to, KV6 Bartley, KV6 LE, his attorney from San Francisco. You can see him too. He was my boss there. I was reporting to him, like 60 people. He was coordinating the main command center for the emergency operations. So this, this sentence, I like this sentence, that's why I put it. When is the last time you did something for the first time? One of the saying, I remember that. See, this basically, even though I'm a ham radio operator, like I started my ham radio, this one, when I was like 17 years of age. That's the first time I got my first ticket in India, ham radio ticket. So that time, it was like, we're talking about like 25 years ago, plus 25 plus years ago. So one thing that happened was India, as in US also, the ham radio was, that was the thing that was like, you can carry a wireless set in your hand and you can communicate. That was the fascination we had. So as a school kid, all of us went there and we took that. And then eventually, I was, working with some senior ham operators there, VU2CT, Daya, and VU2 GM, Girimaji, and a couple of senior folks. I think Girimaji is no more, and Daya is like 85. So his call sign was VU2CT, mine is VU2COT. So that was call sign available, so I took it. So those, when I was working with them, after I got my first ham radio call sign, we actually participated in a couple of emergency flood situations and other supports. There was a rally and all those supports we were giving. And I never even imagined in my dreams that I'm going to be a part of a big thing like this. So that is the sentence, which immediately came to me. When is the last time you did something for the first time? Because this is the first thing, and I wish and I pray that should be the last time of that kind of calamity. We're talking about 4,000 plus. People have lost counts. How much was big? So this was the news clipping I had taken of this. Okay. So technically it so happened that, to start with the background story, I was working for one of the New York City stock brokers as a Java programmer. And on that day, maybe afternoon or like 10:30, and after that, I might have been, if everything was okay, I would have been in Tower 2. So I was staying in New Jersey, and I was commuting from New Jersey to New York every day. And I was working in Empire State Building as well as World Trade Center. There are a couple of offices were there. And this whole thing happened like 8:45 or something like that, where I was on the NJ Transit. That's a train, subway train, which goes from New Jersey to New York. I was on the halfway through. When this happened, the whole train thing stopped. And actually I had to walk back to my New Jersey home. Almost it was 8 miles of walk. The whole road, I was not alone. Trust me, like we're talking about 10,000 people walking on the road. There was no all the communication was shut, and there's no transportation, no trains, no this one. People literally had to get down off all the trains and start walking. So I was one among that crowd. By the time I reached it was like 6 o'clock in the evening, 5:30 or 6 o'clock. The moment I came home, so then I was member of a couple of organizations there at that time. I saw an email and there was a phone number to call. If you guys want to volunteer for this, if you are a trained ham radio operator, you want to volunteer for communication things, you're welcome. That was the thing. So I just called that number and left a message. And within 5 minutes, I got a call back. And unfortunately, because it's 18 years ago, I don't remember who called me. Some ham radio operator, that's all I can say. Because a lot of call signs have forgotten. And I worked with so many people there. And that I was new to US too. So I had, like you guys have a hard time remembering the Indian names, I had a hard time remembering US names. Admit, that's the truth, okay? So it so happened that, I got a call and they said, can we start? This happened on 9/11, and next day morning they said, can you come? Like 9:30 on this train station, this is part of the Red Cross, and we want to have what kind of equipments you have and whatever you have, can you come, take it and come. So I will go through the next slides where what are the equipments I had with that time, So this is, so it so happened that, immediately I went there next day morning, and all that happened was like, by that time, Bartley, KV6LE, he was already there. He was the one man show that time. And like after that, like 15, 20 ham radio operators who were there on the vicinity, they were able to come. They all came with whatever the equipments they had, like some had VHF, some had UHF, some all those things, and some people, like 2 or 3 repeater stations, immediately they set it up. And it so happened that because most of the telephone towers and other things, radio frequency towers, were there on the Tower 1 and Tower 2. So in and around that vicinity of that location, the whole communication was down. Technically, they wanted somebody who has any capability of communication. And this what we did is for Red Cross. So Red Cross had set up makeshift hospitals in and around Ground Zero, and first couple of days it was like a rescue mission. They were still hoping that they can get some people alive, and I believe that last thing I read was like 8th day or 9th day, you know, I'm not sure about the days, the last person who was pulled out alive.
On the 9th day?
Yeah, so that was the thing I remember. And after that it became like I was there till, it was like for a month or so, the operation, but I was there, you know, on and off. First few days it was like a rescue, it was critical, life-saving, so people, we have to be there like 10 hours, 12 hour shift. They were assigning to different places and we had to just run. And most of the people, you know, because not only US, any country for that matter was not prepared for that big calamity. And even if I ask anybody, even all that happened was, the moment that happened, I remember calling my dad and mom on the phone. I spoke to them. I was on the phone for 5 minutes, it cut off. After that, nothing. I couldn't talk to them for 20 days, period. So, I mean, there was no cell phones, nothing, everything was like blank, and yeah. So, it so happened that, you know, that's the Bartley I was talking about. He had written an article there. So, one of the quotings, you know, he had put it there, one does not rise to the occasion, one sinks to the level of training. So, that time, whatever the training we had, in fact, even the person who called me, he said, do you want to come and volunteer here? I said, I'm an Indian radio operator who have volunteered in the other scenarios, and I speak English, starting with I, Indian English. So, I don't know how much is my accent now changed, but it was pretty different that time, back then. So I told him that's what I do, and I don't have a US call sign, I have an Indian call sign. So I don't know whether I'm legally permitted to operate here. Come on, stop it, just come. Whatever you have, take it and come, because that was the problem there, you know, like the problem was to such an extent. Anybody who is available nearby, just come. Doesn't matter, you know, whatever you can do. It's not just ham radio operators, it's everybody. It was like people, I was amazed to see that one of the OEMs I was working, operations of emergency management, they had OEM 1 and OEM 2. One of the offices they had, 2 offices they had. There, first day when I go there, there's one 85 years old, okay, lady walking slowly with pushing a cart, and people were taking that some leaflets and other things from the table. Only thing she was doing was whatever anybody wants a photocopy of anything, she was manning that photocopy machine. So she was slowly walking, taking the help of the cart. Whatever anybody wants, you know, they say, can you make 50 copy of this, 20 copy of this? She took it, goes to the photocopy station, makes that copy, and comes back and delivers it. So I was there, that's all I can say, and I don't say that I'm very proud and other things because the bad thing happened, but it's just, I happen to be there. I mean, I'm not the best and the great ham radio operator ever, but we happened to be there. So we were there. So it's turned out that way. And finally it turned out that I'm the only one Indian ham radio operator who was there. So that's what a couple of places they talk about. So there was one person from Canada was also there, and 2 from Germany or something. So it continued. So going to the next slide, these are the things I had that time, you know, VX5R, the handset, and 7 ESO 7100, and this one is the HF and TS 930, which I didn't carry there because we didn't use HF frequencies there, just VHF, and they had set up like a couple of repeater stations. And one of the challenges we had, that is the challenge for New York City though. Most of the buildings are very high-rise buildings. So if you have a repeater already on the highest point, then only you can access it. Otherwise, with the VHF, with the FM communication, sometimes the signals were very noisy and it was dying out because of the high-rise building. If you stand one parking lot of one building, you cannot even communicate to the parking lot of another building if you don't have a repeater. But the whole thing was very much clearly handled. First day we started with like 60 people, and we all were asked to give our social security number. They do some background check and kind of this one. And yeah, that was the situation, because there you want to believe but you don't know whom to believe. So they had to go through that. Quickly they did that, and immediately within like a couple of hours we got our badges. So that's there in this one. So to start with, they gave badge like this, and this is no access ground zero. Most of the hams we got that one, because ground zero was totally chemically, this one combustible, a lot of smoke was coming, so unhealthy thing. So only people with the actual rescue they are doing, the doctors, medical professionals, they were allowed inside, but none of us. So we were a little bit like in half a mile away from the ground zero. Like they had like 8 to 9 makeshift hospitals. So most of the schools and community centers, they got converted to hospitals. So that's when that's where Red Cross went and set up their bed and other things, and the supplies which is needed for those places were actually bought in from the head office. It was in Hoboken and a couple of places. So one of the things which we were doing as a ham radio operator, so every day we go there, and the doctors used to come, the local area supervisors used to come of that makeshift hospital. They used to ask us, we need like 15 blankets, 20 beds, and there are a lot of medicines. I don't remember the names of it. We had to, lot of medicines they need. We need this much, this many boxes of this medicine, water bottle, blankets, bed, all kinds of things. Because most of the things, it was like this. If they find a table like this, they convert it into a makeshift bed. There's somebody injury, all kinds of injuries because of the derbies and all those things. They were made to sleep there and give them first treatment and initial treatment. If it is okay, they will shift it to other places or kind of thing. So our support was to Red Cross to give this communication support. So this was the badge which I was showing, a couple of badges which I had. Of course, you have to pardon me because I had some hair that time, but 18 years. I've been married for 17 years, same wife, so, okay, hope my wife is not hearing that. So, this was the ham, this was the frequencies I was talking about. So, they had like, tag 1, tag 2. So, these were the normal frequencies. Every day morning when we start our day, they used to give this one like that and do a briefing. What is that you're going to do in that place, things of that kind. The whole thing was very professionally handled. And I never imagined whole New York City can, it doesn't matter. They didn't ask for your color, skin color, what is your background, what do you do, nothing. Can you do this? Please come and do it. You just go and stand there and say that, can I do that please? And it was like amazing thing. There were some pizza and some food pantry guys, all they were doing was they were cooking the food and feeding you. If you are a volunteer, they will feed you that way. So it was like I don't know how many people were there on site there that time, New York. Anybody here were there on site there? Or? But one thing that happens is that incident has left a deep impact on everybody's mind. Even when I talk to my dad, my sister in India, my brother, they all remember when that news came, what they were doing. Even today, they can tell that. You yourself asked that. You know that, what you were doing. So such a deep impact that created. Yeah. Even my uncle says that, okay, that time I was fishing, just like that. Everybody remembers what happened. So that kind of, but New York City is a great city. Seriously. And I saw as a bachelor in New York City, life is really good. Yeah. So I saw that, and I saw that is in the peak of good times, and I saw in this time too. So both times, New York is beautiful. People came like so good, so good. So I was just a small fish in the corner of the big pond there, big ocean, okay. But I felt really good. And I'm glad that you guys want to hear that story after 18 years. But thank you guys. Thank you. So this was the frequencies we were talking, and these were the shelters that was set up that time. Like we had like close to 9 or 10. School was there. See, there is a vocational training. This one. So we were, every day, couple of 1 or 2 ham radio operators. They were getting assigned that shift, Can you go and man the shift in the morning, evening kind of thing. So it was like, sometimes it was 12 hours and sometimes it was 18-hour shift. Some of the locations like OEM 1 which I was working, and some of the locations were very sensitive because it was very near to that ship which was carrying the supplies, medical supplies and other things. So to enter to that, it was like, even to get to my post where I had set up the wireless equipment to communicate, it was taking like almost 45 minutes of all the security checks I had to go through. Finally, they will allow us inside. But some of the hospitals were not so this one. It was very easy to, within 15 minutes you could have entered there. But it was a big setup. I mean, it was like an army of people, thousands of people. Doctors, nurses, everybody, all kinds of help. It was given there, and it was very systematic. And I was new to the country that time, and the whole thing, I decided to take US citizenship period. Even though I was in UK too, like 5 years, obviously I would have got my UK citizenship because of the fact that you stay for 2 years. Then we had to decide whether you come back to US and take a US green card and citizenship. Then we decided, okay, let's take US. Because the whole thing was, I fall in love with it. So let's continue with that. See, this is like every day they used to tell us, new repeater locations changes, what frequency, which building it is. So depending on the vicinity of this one, they used to share these details. I mean, these are all old story. I don't think it's confidential. So that time it was sensitive, people, because people didn't know how it happened, why it happened, kinds of things. So it was like a lot of things that were confidential. So this was the document, the guidelines I was talking about. I have that guidelines book here. Maybe you guys want to set up some emergency operations here, kind of thing. This is like 18 years old document, but it was a good start. So we used to have morning briefing before we start, and once we come back, once we finish our shift, they used to do the debriefing. So what did you understand, new things you learned, and other hands who used to be there, who will be taking over my shift, will also be there. And yeah, Barkley is the guy. KV6LE is awesome. He handled it really good. He's because I believe by the time he's from San Francisco, California. California had historically, even now we have the same problem with the wildfires. So they had that experience of handling the whole situation. He was like, they picked him, I think. He's a guy who can manage the whole show. He did. So we started off with 60 people, like 60 ham radio operators, then it came to like 200, 300, and I don't know what's the final number that came to, but whole thing, he was the best. He really handled. I have his picture too, I will show that. So this is one of the OEMs, if you see at the bottom, OEM, V2COT, and other people, when I was sitting in the OEM Office of Emergency Management, I was actually managing the communication to the different locations. So those are the call signs, people's call signs who are manning the places. And so they allowed me to take this. They also signed at the bottom. Thanks, Bob. I mean, Bob was like, since you had a difficulty calling my name, the last name Bangalore, so my ham radio call sign, I put it as Bob, nickname is Bob. Bangalore and Bob. So that's why he said, thanks Bob for your work. That's what he has signed there. Because, instead of telling me Suresh, Bangalore and all those things, I said Bob, okay, call me Bob. But now I'm in security, I call myself TD Harry. TD means Tom, Dick and Harry. It means you don't need to know my name, okay? I'm in security business, so you don't need to know my name. So TD Harry. Oh, you guys are recording it? Oh shit, I shouldn't have told that. It's okay. So this was the naval ship that was there, and so this actually, within I think 48 hours, US government bought in that ship. It had all kinds of medical supplies, food and everything. It was on the Long Island, the center, and from there, they started distributing the food, supplies, everything. It was handled great. So the couple of pictures, I don't know whether the one in the middle, I don't remember his name, sorry for that. And the last one is that white shirt guy is Bartley, KV6LE, yeah. So if you look at even in the magazine, I think it's there. So he was one of the OEMs he was sitting. So, and another thing is, it so happened that me working there as a only Indian there, that actually gave me a little bit of more freedom kind of thing. And most of the people whom I was talking to, even that FBI was there, Army was there, Navy and everybody, so they didn't allow a lot of people to take any pictures or anything. But one of the Army guys came and told me, if you want to carry some memento back, like after the whole thing was, it went from rescue to rehabilitation kind of thing after 15, 17 days. I said, if you want to take a picture, you're allowed to only bring one disposable camera. So you can take it. And they actually, most of other hands and other people, even the cars who were there, they took my pictures there. So they know that I'm an Indian ham radio operator, so he wants to keep that for your memory. It so happened after this, like I will show it in the future slides, the Bartley wanted to write an article because he was a supervisor for the emergency communication. He wanted to write an article like Citizens Report on one of the magazine, Popular Communication magazine. He didn't have any pictures. Nobody had anything other than the memories, because we were not allowed to take anything else. So then he asked me, Bob, if you have any picture, I know that you had one camera, so can you send me those things? So even in the magazine, when he was putting, he had to put my photos too. We have a saying in Hindu, this one, we actually use flowers to worship God. So to tie up the bunch of flowers, we actually use a thread, right? So we put it on the feet of the God and say that, it's going to heaven. So the saying goes like this: with the flower, which is actually blessed one, even the thread also went to heaven. So like that, yeah, like that. I also got so much publicity everywhere because of he was the boss and he wanted to write, and all that magazine pictures, and I will show you the magazine. I'm there. Okay, I said, wow, okay. So with the flower, thread went to the heaven. So I was one among like 300 hams. Somewhere, as I told you, it's corner fish in the big ocean. So a couple of pictures, and this is one of the OEM officers. I was there. This is Red Cross head office. So we actually bonded up. A lot of people, like we were there for, sometimes it was like 12 hours, 18 hours shifts, and we used to sleep there in the sleeping bag sometimes, a couple of nights I remember sleeping there. It actually created a lot of close bond with a lot of hams there. Yeah. So, and I think he or here, I don't remember, one was from ex-Navy and one was from ex-Air Force. And you can see, this is one of the t-shirts I got from one of the army officers there. So this is like 18-year-old t-shirts, so it's taken so much thing. But whenever I talk about this or come September 11 time, I want to wear this. It's in, whatever shape it is, that's what, that's the reason. And it was looking a little bit faded, so that's why I put a coat, which is so hot here, but it's fine. And this is a pin also. I mean, it's like a, I'm attached to this kind of thing, so I kept it that way. So he's the one who gave me that. I remember this photo, that's what I was thinking of. So, yeah, there's a couple of other small kids and bigger, everybody was there. And this is the ham radio setup I have at my home in India, on the top of the antenna, HF, VHF, and all those things which 40 meter, 20 meter, all the bands I have. So this was a certification they gave. I mean, of course, my boss there, he wanted to write a recommendation letter for me. He said, it's okay, whatever you want. And another, the great thing, that happened was, the club from San Francisco, they wrote a letter like this. In fact, the equipments which I bought it here, they were thinking, because it was high-end HF equipments, VHF and all those things, so they thought that if I have a problem when I go back to India in the customs, so they gave this letter. I mean, all those things. I didn't even ask for anything. I'm telling you, like, people were so meticulously planned, and I mean, yeah. As I told you, the flower and the thread story, I'm blessed. Thank you for that. Yes. So this is the magazine I was talking about. See that other than these first two pictures which he has taken, every picture I am there. So, yeah. It's there in the, even if you go, you just put my call sign BU to COT, you can see this, the whole PDF is there. So, even way back in India also, everybody knows, okay, VU to COT, oh, somebody in WTC were there, no, okay, yes. But people don't remember because, don't recognize me because of this, but it's okay. So, even see, he used this one and he used this badge. So, other than that, I don't have anything else to show, but you can ask any questions you want. Yes?
Well, after this experience, were you able to take this experience and apply it in any way with your ham radio or ham radio group you might have been in at the time, or even back in India?
Yeah, the thing is, that happened one way. this experience was a real great thing for my life personally, but I never faced such a big calamity anywhere else.
Right. I mean,
So-
preparation-wise though, did you think?
Yeah, preparation wise, I share these documents,
Yeah.
and for a couple of emergency groups we have, so preparedness workshop and all those things which I share with them. They use that, but thank God
Okay.
there is no need to use that training as come.
Good.
So I don't want that to come to for anymore. I mean, other than that, we working for fire, this one, or cyclone and hurricane, earthquake. Even India, yeah. India also, the ham radio operators are doing great job. So do in US and everywhere. So people think that it's an ham radio Ham radio is a outdated thing, but it's not. The technology, sometimes every technology fails. The ham radio is the only one which remains. Even for the pilots in the plane, Air Force pilots, fighter pilots, everybody, they keep an ham radio because they don't believe the computer dashboard, it may crash anytime.
Wow.
Yeah, they keep. And I remember, even I wanted to be a fighter pilot as a kid. So one of the mandatory thing is you want to be in a ham radio. I mean, do you have a ham radio call sign? That's a plus. So, because 6 volts battery pack, you can communicate all over the world. Where else you can do that? Other than ham radio, you can't. So all you need is, even if you want to make an antenna, I mean, you guys are more experienced than me in the ham radio. You know that, right? Just I can use the tree out there, 5 threads there, and hook up, my antenna is ready, 20 meters, 40 meters ready, 5 minutes. All I need is my motorcycle battery, 6 volts battery pack, and I'm up in the air in 5 minutes. So that's the greatness of ham radio. I don't know, a lot of people may not believe that, and even the teenage kids, now in young generations. So now I've come to a stage where I am talking that way because I have a teenage daughter now. So she's not. So I wanted to bring her here. Huh?
Insta.
Yes.
Insta.
All kinds, yeah, all kinds of things. I wanted to bring her here, but today she was busy. So I'm encouraging her to take the license. I mean, she may take it with me.
Good.
So any other questions you guys have, or?
Another question.
How far away was where you were at from ground zero?
1 mile.
1 mile.
See, what happened was like half a mile to 1 mile maximum. The ground zero was like half a mile from the actual area. After that was the makeshift hospitals. So the branches I was showing here, yeah, this was the location addresses. Some locations needed more than 2-3 hams, because one they had an emergency situation room kind of thing. They had a normal bed. People with all kinds of injuries, and yeah.
During that time you were there, did you go down to ground zero?
I went up to like few yards from that place maximum.
Oh, yeah.
It was full of smoke and some kind of because everything was burning there, the whole thing was a different smell, unbearable smell. Whether it's burning metal, burning human, this one, or I don't know. And it was not recommended for us to go this one. Even that's what, if you see my badge, it says no ground zero access.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they were very particular, and a lot of people were who consumed that fumes had all kinds of problems.
Oh, so-
But still, what we did is just a communication support, but there are people who did the physical support there, firefighters, police, army, and those things are really great. But I'm blessed to be a part of that whole thing, to witness
So what would have been typical traffic that you handled?
Like 5 or 10 messages in 15-20 minutes time, depending upon, it's like sometimes we used to say that, can you send like 15 beds and medical supplies,
So
boxes.
it was mostly supplies that you were requesting?
Totally medical supplies. Because we were working for Red Cross, so they had a makeshift hospital in and around. So whatever is needed for a patient, think of the general patient who got hurt in that thing. Some people had a cut injury, some people are bleeding, head injury. So it's all medical supplies. We were part of
So
Red
did
Cross.
the amateur network get involved with the actual command of emergency responders?
Yeah, we were part of that. Our whole team was part of that. Our services only restricted to this one. Because even when I went to OEM, I saw that Army had a different setup in some corner, Navy had one, Air Force had one, even the FBI was sitting there. They had their own things going on. Even the city, civic community, and that time I was new to the country, so I don't remember. I know that every part of this one was there. Even, a couple of times, even Giuliani, he was the mayor, I saw him on site. I don't want to get into political, but I liked him as a person. He was there.
Julian?
There, yes. He was there, on feet. I saw him 3-4 times too. Even he came home talking to everybody, saying that, thank you for doing this, thank you for doing that. So like that, not just him, like everybody was involved. And he was appreciating.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Was there any communications, excuse me, any sharing of communications between the military and, say, yourself or others? Or were they basically their own entity and they talked to their own people and no information came in or out of the military communications? Am I making sense?
Yeah. If I tell you, I'm going to kill you. Top secret. Just joking. Okay. It was. Okay. So it's a joke, right? It's okay. So it was. They had even in the army. In fact, for the army, navy, and the air force, a couple of OEM one and a couple of places I went. Even for them, Red Cross is the one which was supplying food for them. Even they're running short of water bottles or any food they want, they used to come to us and say, can we get this? Can you get it from there? So it was, Red Cross was like a feeding cow for the whole, this one. They were feeding food. So there used to be a lot of interactions in and out, all kinds.
You walked 8 miles out of the city and then they called you to come back in.
No,
And
no, basically to come back my home, I had to walk back because the
Right.
trains were stopped.
right, but I mean, to get back into the city when you agreed to go volunteer your time, didn't they shut down the city?
No, next day it was there, train was there.
Okay.
See, that day when it happened, 9 o'clock, that's when the whole city was this one. After that, next day, the trains were not shut down. I was able to go up to not up to the ground zero. That area, the Manhattan, the lower Manhattan, was shut down. But other than that, at least I can go up to Queens and other places, which was like I had to walk a couple of miles. So the subway stations and trains which was going to the ground zero, there was a subway station below the ground zero, Tower 2. The train was going there. So that and all that area that lines were shut. I think red line, blue lines, there were some lines there going. I don't remember exactly. They were all shut. So technically, you can go up to that place like one mile away, then the train stops. then you have to make a back journey. So next day they resume it. That day everything must shut down. So next day it got resumed.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening.